We reported earlier this week on new numbers shedding light on the state's eviction crisis. So that leaves room to ask, how does one avoid an eviction, and what is and isn't legal in the process? News 19's Rachel Ripp is on your side tonight with those answers.
I spoke with a tenant-landlord lawyer here in the Midlands to get the rundown on evictions. He said as long as a tenant is paying their rent, has their utilities on, and belongings in their home, they'll avoid eviction. The South Carolina Bar says evictions can be triggered by failing to pay rent, the term of occupancy ending, or terms of the rental agreement under violation. Billy Canty is a landlord-tenant lawyer here in the Midlands. He says there are consequences if a landlord bypasses the judicial process and takes action into their own hands.
They can't bar the tenant from the property, and they can't remove the tenant's items. And the tenant has remedies if the landlord does that on it, which can be up to 3 times the rent plus attorney's fees if the landlord bars the tenant from the property or bars them from services that the landlord's required to provide.
Canty says a lease agreement can provide details of an eviction notice, or if it doesn't, the landlord has to send notice and give 14 days to the tenant to pay rent before officially filing an eviction. And this eviction notice has to be specific.
It has to be mailed, and it has to be certified mailed to the address, not posted, not dropped off, not handed to them. There's a specific notice provision in the South Carolina landlord-tenant law.
After receiving notice, Canty says tenants have the ability to ask for a court date. But if a landlord moves forward with a writ, he explains that law enforcement have the ability to remove you and your belongings.
The landlord has the right to come into the house at any time for an emergency, but otherwise has to give the tenant 24 hours notice.
Canty tells News 19 an eviction doesn't qualify as an emergency. He adds that after an eviction is filed properly, it usually takes about a month to go to court. To make sure you know your rights as a tenant, you can read the Landlord-Tenant Act at scstatehouse.gov. You can go to your county's magistrate's office for legal resources, or you can find a pro bono lawyer at Housing Court. In studio, Rachel Ripp, News 19, WLTX.